Welcome. It is no accident that you have found your way to the Release the Genie podcast. What would you do with 3 wishes? And what if you discovered that you are in fact that very genie that could grant them? Well, join us now as we discover who our next genie is as we listen in and learn the stories of triumph, inspiration, and passion with some very special guests. And now, without further delay, your host of the Release the Genie podcast, Mr. Paul Rogers.
So good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you're tuning in from today. I have one hell of a genie with me today. He's a friend of mine and I've got to know him, and his personality and his drive is just so infectious. Let me tell you a little bit about him. He is a marketing expert, investor, entrepreneur. He does high level coaching. He has actually sold over 1.5 million in sales and products. So this guy knows what he's doing. His passion is to deliver massive value to motivate and inspire startups and entrepreneurs. And he has a fantastic coaching company, which is called Elite Coaching Circle. You've got to be a member of that. And breath time. He actually also runs his own podcast called Entrepreneur Speaker Series. If you haven't seen it, get there and have a look. But without further ado, I bring on the wonderful Rob Zweerman.
Thank you, Paul. Appreciate it. Thank you so much for inviting me on the Genie show. And this is actually, I haven't heard this before, but somebody calling me a genie, it makes me feel honored and privileged. So thank you so much.
This is your time in the spotlight, my friend. So,
and by the way, I think after this introduction, I think I should hire you to do all my introductions on stage, because that was phenomenal.
You know, it's always nice to warm up the audience. So I think they're hot and frothy now. So let's dive in. So I wonder if you could tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, I'm an entrepreneur and I solve problems. And over my journey, I have started and founded many different companies, but it always led me to 3 principles. And so I identified it and I call it the 3 pillars of wealth. Because everybody that is starting their entrepreneurial journey, or even in life, even if you have a job, you know, what do you work for, right? Just imagine this. What are we working towards? Well, most of the people can answer that question and say for retirement, right? I'm actually building something to have a lifestyle, but then I work towards retirement so that I can live my golden years. So I identified in that journey that it always comes down to 3 things. Number 1, which is branding, right? You need to have an identity as a person, but also as a company. So personal brands first, corporate brands second. So I help people to find their purpose, right? To build that brand story, and it gives them clarity and direction. And it's beautiful, Paul, because the moment, and I'm sure you have seen this, right? We have done some work together. The moment you give somebody purpose and clarity on their identity, it's like this whole burden of being pulled in all kinds of directions just fades away like snow under the sun, and it allows them to go one direction. So that's absolutely beautiful.
I think it's so right, and I love the fact you're saying a burden goes, because whether people realize it, and some don't realize it, that there is actually a burden, getting clarity and then allowing that momentum to carry them through whatever they're then facing. I think that's so important. Wonderful stuff, my friend. And 3 pillars, that's a memorable takeaway. So I love that too.
Yeah, because I see it, life is an evolution, right? So I touched on the first one, which is branding and identity, right? It's to find your identity. But once you're very clear on who you are and where you want to be, then there's a second pillar, right? And that usually involves mindset. And whether you realize it or not, but we're all being programmed by society, by our school systems, by our parents, by our environment, by the governments. So most of the time when I coach entrepreneurs, right, who find themselves, they have been stuck or they're plateaued, it's because of their own thinking. It's not some sort of like a new business strategy, but it's really their own thinking that keeps them at certain levels. So the next pillar is self-evolution. I call this alchemy of self, right? Becoming the highest form of self. And so you pair that up with your foundation, which is your purpose, and your purpose ignites your passion. And now you're changing your thinking. And then that leads us to pillar number 3, which is financial freedom, right? Because if I can take the finances, the money out of decision making, would you take different decisions?
That is absolutely amazing. And I love the alchemy. I mean, that's just, I mean, it sounds kind of like magical and transformational. I love it. I love it. And that's a very easy thing for people to get hold of and resonate with. So, wow. Look, I'm going to press on because I'm having so much fun that actually this could last for hours. So my next point is, what was one of your aha release the genie moments?
Yeah, good question. So I think over my lifetime, I had so many, but if I can take us back a little bit. So maybe you have noticed, right? But I speak with an accent, right? So yeah.
You knew.
I know a lot of people can still not pinpoint it. So I'm going to spill the beans here. So I wasn't born in the US. I was born in the Netherlands, right? In the city of Amsterdam. And that's where I spent most of my childhood and my teenage years growing up and discovering who I am. However, there was one problem, and I felt that the Dutch culture, it's first of all, it's a socialistic system. And not that there's anything wrong with having a socialistic system, but especially in the Netherlands, culturally, it teaches people to think in a certain way. And I always felt that as I was maturing, I always felt that somehow my dreams are bigger than what the common people are allowed themselves to dream about, right? So we have this saying in Dutch, which basically translated, it means like, why don't you just act normal like everybody else, because the world is already crazy enough. That's the saying. And that didn't make any sense to me. So one of my breakthroughs and aha moments was that I had to leave. I had to pack my bags and I had to leave because I didn't feel that I was fully capable of expressing myself. And that put me on a journey of travel, Paul. And there has been a period of my life that I have lived in so many different countries and started different businesses, experiencing different cultures. But what that does for you, it just expands your perspective. It opens your mind to the possibilities. And I think that is one of the biggest breakthroughs and the best things that I could have done for myself, is just to step out and then go and live life through experiencing and meeting different people and cultures. And that allowed me to identify that I am allowed to dream. I am capable of creating and manifesting those dreams into reality. I just have to find the right surroundings.
That's wonderful. And, yeah, and it's a kind of a recurring theme, not to be allowed to be boxed in. And that's sort of the common thread that goes through your 3 pillars is don't be afraid to actually step out and to move into the next part. So I love that. It's really good. And hey, you bring your worldly experience. So
absolutely. There's actually, in every country, there's always people that have never spent a bit of time outside of their little micro worlds. So just by stepping into theirs, you can bring a new perspective. And just by association, right, hanging out with certain people, you are able to transmit that energy and that world view. So I just encourage everybody to spend some time abroad. And I know you, Paul, I know your story, right? You weren't born here either. So I think you can totally relate to that experience.
You see, I've got a little accent too, but which Rob and I have a bit of sport on this, because as he's from Europe, he always likes me to say certain things in English and laughs, and so it's kind of fun. We throw that banter backwards and forwards. So what I'm going to come on to now is what's one of your inspiring quotes which has really sort of got you on this right direction?
Yeah, great question, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to share. So it comes down to my aha moment, right? So because I believe that everyone is affected by three kinds of influences. Number one is input, is what you feed your mind with, and number two is associations, it's whom you spend your time with, and number three, the environment, your surroundings. So I encourage you to evaluate if you have certain dreams, right? And your plan doesn't seem to be working right now. Don't change the dream or don't change the goal, but change either one of these three factors. And you will see that that's exactly where your personal breakthrough lies.
Do you know what? This is why, and it's kind of like, this is why people need to speak to you, because this is simple but golden advice, and I know it's going to really touch the hearts and souls of people. So thank you ever so much for sharing that.
Of
Now we're
course.
going to come on to sort of one of what actually shapes Rob. So what was one of your setbacks or your adversity you've had to overcome?
So I certainly didn't grow up in this way, right? I was conditioned to play it safe. I was told to get a job, right? To pay the bills, get a mortgage, get married, to settle in, right? Just like society is expecting you to. So my challenge was that back then I really didn't understand myself. I didn't understand. It was just a feeling, but I couldn't explain it. And there was also nobody that could guide me. And back then, like right now, I mentor so many people around the world. But back then, I didn't even understand the concept of mentorship or coaching. I played high level sports, right? I've been involved with athleticism and so I played high level soccer back in Europe. So I understood the concept of coaching, but only in that contrast. But I never applied it personally or even to business. So the moment that I understood and that I ran into mentors, people that had succeeded at the levels where I wanted to be, and then basically getting involved with them, right, to learn how they think, to associate myself, I soon became them. So that was one of the other breakthroughs that I got, that if you want to go from point A to point B, well, the fastest way to get there is in one straight line. And most people don't understand this concept, right? And it goes more like this, up and down, or like a roller coaster. But if you stand behind a strong leader, a strong mentor or coach that has been there and has achieved certain results, they can just teach you the blueprint. And then I just challenge you not to question the blueprint, but just follow along, even if you may not understand it. But that's every single time where my breakthroughs have come from, Paul, that I just followed the advice of my mentors and I hit these results in the fastest way possible.
See, and you're so right, and I love the word blueprint. That always comes up in my mind of the architect's plan.
Yeah.
You don't go and start changing the architect's plan because or for a house, because otherwise the house falls down.
Or you don't start just building, you don't just start pouring concrete and start building walls without the blueprint.
Yeah, yeah, and it keeps you on focus and it gets to the goal. So I love it. I love it. So and this is going to really be exciting. And maybe we have to take a deep breath here. What are you actually working on at the moment? Because I know you have your fingers in so many different pies. So tell us a little bit what you're working on.
Yeah, awesome, Paul. I think 2020 has been such an exciting year for us because we have focused heavily, right? It all starts with education, and we have come across some phenomenal entrepreneurs all over the planet that sought us out. You know, people that they have tremendous ideas and capabilities and skill sets, but they are just not capable of bringing it down in a step-by-step process, right? To get that straight line. So we have been focusing heavily on expanding the coaching programs. But especially what I'm so passionate about today, Paul, is to teach financial education. And this sounds simple, right? And by no means am I a financial planner, but I rather consider us a financial or a wealth strategist. It's not about wealth accumulation. It's not about doing a whole lot of things and having your hands in so many different investments. It's about doing things in a certain way, which we call cracking the wealth code, right? So there's an actual process to cracking the wealth code. And this is the new venture. We're currently in the middle of a massive rollout, but we're building a massive community and platform to teach and bring the Wall Street knowledge back to the Main Street. Because if you evaluate people's desires, there's always the number one thing on their list, which is financial freedom, right? So that's what we want to provide, is provide them the blueprint in how to at least cover your foundations so that you no longer take decisions based on the money, right? So teach financial education, teach them to do things in a certain way, and that allows them to ignite their genius, right? And pun intended here. But if the financial foundation is taken care of, imagine that people can go on with their life worry-free, stress-free, and they become fearless. They start taking decisions because they want to, not because they have to.
And you know, it's so powerful. And I've seen some of your entrepreneur sessions where you have been hosting some phenomenal guests, and you know, there's something which sort of stuck with me as you've been talking through. There's a lot of people without that education who, when they get to retirement, they're not in the position they assumed they would be, and they might not have all what they thought of when they were younger.
Yeah. And Paul, you were part of the webinar series that we do, right? So you have seen the audiences and you have seen some of the stories that have been shared, but unfortunately we ran into people that are supposed to retire in the next couple of years, or even people who are beyond that point, but they found themselves that they didn't have a financial blueprint. And in today's economy, right, if you don't protect yourself, if you don't take care of your fundamentals, then there's nobody out there who's going to do that for you. So we have encountered people, and we're currently training and helping people that are actually kind of past that point where they need to retire. They have certain income needs, and there's no way for them to retire. You know, they may have developed chronic illnesses or terminal illnesses sometimes, and they have these long-term care needs. Well, do you know, Paul, how much it costs to have long-term care?
This is going to scare me. Go on.
Yeah, well, here in the US, at least on this side, anywhere between $5,000 to $10,000 monthly if you want to be in a good retirement home.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So imagine if you work 40, 50 years of your life, and maybe you have a saving plan, right? A 401k or any other type of pension fund. That will drain your funds really, really quickly. And that, not just even talking about the taxes, right? Because most people forget about the taxes. So if you are on average paying anywhere around 33% in taxes, you will, in order to, let's say, draw 5K per month, you will have to draw more like 8K monthly in order to get 5. And if your long-term care needs are costing you anywhere between $5,000 to $10,000, it's gone.
It's going to wipe you out, isn't it?
It's going to wipe you out.
Oh.
And that's the problem right there. So that's why earlier on you asked me, right? I started off with, why do we work? It's not necessarily sure to build a lifestyle today, But the second is when you retire, right? It's long-term thinking. So you will need to have a plan, and the earlier you start, the better, right? Because you don't want to find yourself in a situation where you are old, you don't have the energy and the capabilities. Maybe you have, body illnesses, or, we all know your story, Paul. You, unfortunately, you got into an accident that takes away certain abilities. Well, if you don't have that plan in place, and I know that you're currently working on building your own protection, right? So I'm so happy to see you going on that journey. But that is extremely important. And this is not something that they teach us in school, or our governments, or our parents, right? This is like this entire knowledge gap that doesn't exist. So that's why we are on a cause, right, to educate America, to bring back financial education and awareness, so people can become their best advisors in their household.
Wonderful, wonderful. And so many people overlook this, and you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And so
And what you don't know may end up costing you in the long term.
Exactly. And so many great takeaways, and I hope everyone's got their pen and pad out, because this is really high ticket advice. So thank you very much for that. Now we move now to the second part of the show, which is where I get to ask my 3 wishes. So Genie, this is where you're going to have to roll your sleeves up. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Right, here we go. Wish number 1, what was the best advice you've received in your life?
Wow, that takes me to memory lane, Paul. I love these type of questions. So the best advice that I would have given myself, I think that was to find a mentor. To find a mentor to help you clarify who you are and what your gifts to the world are. Because the moment you have clarity on your identity, it allows you to ignite that passion, to get very, very passionate, and that allows you to go really fast. And I feel that as human beings, we tend to be like a ship without a rudder, right? We're just drawing in circles and for wasting many, many years. So I think mentorship and coaching is extremely important.
Great. I mean, I totally agree. And it's quite nice because you've actually combined 2 wishes for the price of 1, which is great because I get another question. So,
Bring it
on. So my new question is, who are your heroes and why are they your heroes?
Awesome. Yeah, great questions. My heroes. I am particularly fond of, he's a high performance coach. His name is Dan Hardy. And Dan Hardy is the co-founder and editor, chief editor of Success Magazine. It's a magazine that I'm particularly fond of. And their philosophy is really, don't put off for tomorrow what can be achieved today. So it all comes down to high performance. And a big portion of their philosophy is gratitude. So gratitude for the little things. And so sometimes when you work a lot and you feel tired and you feel like, oh my God, I don't want to do this, right? You need to have some sort of a higher power. You need to draw energy from the inside and be grateful. And that comes, I found this comes from gratitude. If you have gratitude for the little things that you have accomplished, and you have gratitude for life, period, right? Everything around you and just you being here is no coincidence. Now you are on a purpose, on a mission, and you know that you have gifts that will serve the world, right? If that's on your mind, then you can actually power through that fatigue, right? Even if your brain gets dizzy sometimes, you really need to get some sleep. But knowing that our time is only limited, Paul, and you certainly have experienced that. And I always admire your story. But I built upon that philosophy, right? Our time on this planet is limited. So don't put off for tomorrow what we can achieve today.
And you're absolutely right. Time once spent you can't get it back. It's one of those, and it's one of the ones where you can get your best ROI is time. So, and what you do with it. So, Awesome, awesome stuff. Well, now we're going to move on to my third and final wish, which is, what is one personal habit which attributes to your success?
Awesome. I love to talk habits, Paul. This is one of my favorite subjects. So in our organizations, we have a philosophy. It's called the morning formula. A morning formula is better known as a series of morning rituals that are designed to set you up for success. And this has nothing to do with work, right? Morning formula is actually to build you. So I have a certain morning ritual, a series of things that I do every single day that just makes me better, right? It makes me healthier. It raises my energy. It feeds my brain with the right information. It puts me to a higher state, right? I have a positive outlook on life. And this is how I maintain my performance and my health. So the one of the habits is absolutely, and if you don't already have a series of habits or even may not understand why you need it, start from there. So my club, we have a club which acts as a tool. It's called the 5 a.m. club. So we have entrepreneurs from all over the world joining this club to use it for accountability, because it's not easy, right? If anybody tells you I'm up at 4 or 5, well, you were probably not born that way, right? It's so tempting to turn around and go back to sleep. But the truth is, magic happens before 5. I call it the miracle morning. So if you have a series of rituals and you wake up before 5, right? And then you're gonna spend that time on you, building you before the rest of the world wakes up. Because that's why there's a big divide, Paul. It's the 5% of the top performers versus the 95% of the world. So if you want to be part of that 5% club, you need to have a ritual that you do every day that allows you to perform at your absolute peak performance. So one of the habits that we teach is to have a solid morning routine and then join us in the 5 a.m. club. It's an open format, but it's a lot of fun. It's where people make and set their intentions for the day, but everybody's holding each other accountable. And that's where miracles happen.
You know, that takes me back now down memory lane of the business breakfasts, which was, you know, designed to happen before work to set up the day. And one of the thoughts, which is a very simplistic, when people go to the cafe to get their coffees and their donuts and everything at 9 or 8 o'clock, the people who have been up making that happen, making that magic, are the people who get up early. Those things don't just turn up by themselves. So yeah, I mean, very, very solid advice. And yeah, I love the forum. So early risers, early birds, you know where to come. If you were kicking your heels not knowing, now you know.
Yes.
So finally, because I know you're a great reader, what's one of the books which has been really stand out for you?
So I'm currently, this is actually a current book that I'm reading, and I've read quite a few books over the years, but it comes down to the power of belief. And this is a book by Bruce Lipton. And basically what it teaches, right, the premise of this book is that your beliefs will control how you feel, right? Because your beliefs and your thoughts, they generate emotion. Now your emotion will decide in how you act. So I give you an example. If you tend to go through periods where you're thinking negatively, you just generally, you're skeptical, or you're just not in the best of the moods, right? So it's going to make you feel that way, and your feelings, knowingly or unknowingly, will then make you or allow you to procrastinate, right? So there's certain things that you could be doing that will actually push you in the right direction, that will set you up, whether it's, financial success, or, finishing that thing that you have been procrastinating. So it's very simple. If you change your thoughts, right, you change your beliefs, it will create a different emotion. So maybe now you can start feeling very excited, whether it's exciting about your business, whether it's feeling excited about the future, whether it's being excited about money, making more money. So you feel excited, and your excitement will now result into action, and the right type of actions will lead you to the result. So you change your beliefs, you will change your result. So this is a book by Bruce Lipton that describes in how we dictate our entire cellular structure of the body in order to perform at peak performance. So it's called The Power of Belief by Bruce Lipton. It's part scientific and part spiritual. But I think for the people who have gone through certain levels of self-development, they can probably appreciate this. And this is probably one of the best books that I would recommend anyone to read as a foundation to understand how the beliefs are such an important part of your results.
I love it. I love it. And, it's so true. It's kind of self-manifestation, because it's not something which goes off and is external to you. It's actually bringing you as a conduit of that. So I love it. It's really, really good. Great advice. There has not ever been a dropping of the bar here. It just keeps going up. So with that said, where can we get hold of you? Because there's going to be, I can hear the clamor of people wanting to know where you are. So let us know where you are.
So physically located in Central Texas, right? We're here in our home base in Austin, Texas. So if you happen to be in the area, guys, and you want to come and hang out with some cool people, just shoot me over a text, right? You can find me on rob@robzweerman.com. Or you can connect with me on my social channels, which is Rob and Zweerman. You can find me on YouTube, Rob and Zweerman Official, right? As you mentioned earlier, Paul, we do this weekly entrepreneur speaker series where we bring 6, 7, or 8-figure entrepreneurs to the show to share their journey, right? Because there's so much to be learned from the big breakthrough moments of someone's life. So we bring these guests, which we do every Thursday, by the way. So if you want to tune in, then connect with me on social media. Then join. It's a private inner circle community. So we host these special sessions and mindset training insights. So that's another way. And finally, if you got curious about coaching, right, about business mentorship, or even finances, if you want to build that blueprint, then I actually have now, for the first time, for free, Paul, for the first time, we do this year because we want to give back, right? Due to COVID, it has been like a roller coaster ride for a lot of people. And unfortunately, I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs, go out of business, and other people have thrived. So there's two sides of the story. But this year, for the first time, we offer 7 days free coaching. So if you are currently on the fence, right, and we want to make it accessible and give everybody the opportunity to experience the power of mentorship. So if you're currently seeking, if you're in the phase of building a business and you're not exactly sure in how to go about it, right, for the first time free, we have a 7-day free trial version to work with me and my team one-on-one to build that blueprint for you, to identify where you are and where you want to go, and then bridge that gap with a solution for 7 days. You can try it out. There's no commitment there. But if you want to continue afterwards, we have programs for that. Or if you don't, then you walk away with a blueprint. And that's how we want to give back to the community.
I mean, to be honest, as you were talking there, I mean, what we have just done in half an hour to 45 minutes, so less than an hour, the value you've packed into this. Imagine that for over a 7-day period. I mean, wow. I mean, and the giving back to community, I know that's a real core belief of yours. So yeah. Wonderful. I love it. And what can I say? Blown away by that. So I'm going to attempt just to sum up a few points about you. This guy is always willing to step outside of the belief structure, and chase his dreams no matter what actually happens. But it's not just woo-woo stuff here. There is a blueprint to actually get from A to B to C. And a giving guy. I mean, and you know, when you actually get and meet him, it's really sickening. He's a really nice guy too. So that's a kind of on top. So thank you very much, Rob, for giving us some time today and for giving us fantastic value. Have you enjoyed yourself?
Paul, I really, really appreciate you for allowing me to be a genie for just a moment. It felt good. You know, that's probably where the energy comes from, by being called a genie. So I appreciate you and your show and what you're doing. And it was an absolute pleasure. I had so much fun tonight.
Excellent, excellent. Well, look, we now know where to get hold of Rob. If you've been inspired and moved, which I'm sure you have been, you know where to come. Stay tuned for more guests who are always lifting the bar and inspiring and giving great value advice. I encourage you to release your genie today. And thank you once again, Rob.
Thank you so much, Paul. And I look forward to see you soon again.
Absolutely. Okay, guys, it's over to you.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, that's a wrap. You have been listening to yet another episode of the Release the Genie podcast with host Paul Rogers. Be sure to follow Paul on the LinkedIn platform and learn more of Paul's resources at www.takeactionacademy.ca. And until next time, as always, be mindful and be sure to release your genie. Thanks for listening.